this generation is very much in tune with their nostalgia. They like to kind of go back, especially with COVID. We started watching films, TV shows of the past. And so we are very nostalgic type of people. We are a nostalgic generation. I don't think we've completely owned our own identity, and we haven't had sort of the roaring 20s or the roaring 90s of our own yet.
Say they have completely gone back to their roots. We'll see whether that works from a designer lens, from a strategy lens. And I have Gurjinder with me. How's it going?
Yeah, Brad, it's a old school play that we've seen happening with a lot of brands, and I can call them out. And they're in that food and beverage industry anyways. So maybe they're learning from one another. Let's see. Let's see what it looks like.
Interesting. Let's get started. So we're on the PepsiCo design innovation page, which is interesting. Something that I didn't know about, that they have such a huge design and innovation section.
Yeah.
So yeah, just first thoughts. What do you think?
I personally think I love the globe of the Pepsi, right? So the red, blue, and then the stripe in the middle. I've always loved that. I've grew up with that, and that feels nice. That feels nostalgic for me that we went back to that. Somehow I learned that the Pepsi font itself is really an old school font that they used way back in the 20th century. So I like this font a lot. I think there's a lot of character to it. So overall, I'm liking what I'm seeing so far.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Colors wise, I think I like these colors. And this typeface, as you said, it's an ode to the history. As they have mentioned as well, it's 125 years old. So, I mean, maintaining a brand for that many years, it's difficult. As they said, how do you introduce the next era of an iconic brand like Pepsi? And it's interesting that when they're talking about introducing the next era or introducing it to the next generation, they're going back. That's one.
Yeah.
Created a new look.
Because I think this generation is very much in tune with their nostalgia. They like to kind of go back, especially with COVID. We started watching films, TV shows of the past. And so we are very nostalgic type of people. We are a nostalgic generation. I don't think we've completely owned our own identity, and we haven't had sort of the roaring 20s or the roaring 90s of our own yet. So that's why a lot of these brands like to go back to the nostalgic feels. That's why it works for them.
Yeah. And you're right. It also works because other brands are doing it. And so they're not just isolated. And
yes.
In a way, it's a cultural push. And so that always works.
Correct.
Different ranges, the common Pepsi, Diet Pepsi, Zero Sugar, Wild Cherry. Is cherry a common flavor there?
Yes, I think I've seen it. I haven't tried it personally. But yeah, I would say it's a popular one.
Because I don't think it's much. Cherry as a flavor, it's not that popular.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
This looks good as an illustration. This looks good.
Yeah.
Jacket.
Yeah.
Something like this can be made by Balenciaga or Amiri or maybe more marketing if they do it.
Sure. I always love merchandise that I can find of like Pepsi, of Coca-Cola. There's brands like Budweiser as well. Those are just super fun to have. And it feels like such a nice adjacent market that they've kind of tapped into, and they've spread their brand equity that way. I really like wearing stuff like that. So that's pretty cool to see.
Yes. And they are actually talking about it. They're actually talking about going back to paying homage to its rich heritage while paving the way towards the future. It's about taking specific things from the past, improving on them, and bringing something for the future, as we see here. Oh, wow.
Correct.
Yes, they had to change, I think.
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
Yeah, that was a good move.
They even took out the cola.
Yeah, like we just can't compete with that same thing. Can't be like Pepsi Cola and Coca-Cola can't compete.
Exactly.
And that's where this original, that bottle cap, this logo comes up. Interesting. This one must have been iconic at that time. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Even for that time, I think just from a design perspective as well, you'll see the registered trademark just randomly put before the P. And
Yeah.
I think
I mean, it should really be at the end of the word, but
it
okay.
would have been it would have been pretty bold for that time. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, that's right.
Must have been interesting.
It's a
Then
very
comes
simplified logo for the
very,
time as well. Like, I mean, like, sure, there's like some graphical features to it, but very simple.
but then comes this one, and I don't know what they were thinking. They were probably going for a more simplified logo, but in a way, it's more.
Right.
What do you say? It's more flattened out. The colors are more flattened out.
Yeah, that's
A
right.
different blue, two same reds, and one blue and another blue. So it's kind of
Yeah.
difficult to
The
understand.
97 the 97 to 98 transition is so interesting to see because I think 98 and onwards is kind of where people really started using computer graphics to that level. So this was like the newest innovation at the time, this big 3D effects.
They had
So
to, they couldn't
tell me,
resist.
Brad, is 98 to 2007, is this entire picture the logo? Or do I extract that the font and the circle, and how does that look
Maybe
by
this one.
itself?
Maybe just this one.
Yeah, I don't know.
So it's
Where
interesting
are,
because
yeah,
I think, like from this, what's this one? 1986 onwards, they kind of
yeah,
you can say flattened out their blue, and it became a
that's right.
watery blue color, deep watery blue color. It's the
That's right.
same till 2022. Then they completely went back to this, but darker, because
Yes,
now we have enough digital capability for it. But
yes,
if we stick to this, you'll see this. What's it called? We can call it a globe or a something pathway.
yeah. It always looked like the north and the south halves of our planet with the equator in the middle. That's what it always reminded me of. So we can say it's like a globe.
Interesting. And so for it has continued from 1950 to 2007. That's a long time.
That's
Then for
right.
these 14 years, they went with this. And I'll be honest,
Correct.
I love this direction
Sure.
because this is that teeth thing. It symbolizes something more fun for the generation as well. And
That's right.
as you'll see, the R is on the side, so playing safe.
Yes. Thankfully.
Yeah. And so with
So
this one, with the
yeah.
latest one, the only thing is I would have loved this logo mark with this word mark.
Sure. I hear you on that. I hear you on that. I think
This makes sense.
during those 14 years, they went for a less pronounced vision.
Much less.
The blue was much subtler, right? It's a kind of a subtle blue. There's actually two different shades of blue, one used in the globe and one versus in the background, a little bit different. Now they're going for like stark colors. There's a stark black, like it looks like the hex code 00000. That's the kind of black it looks like. The blue is like the darkest shade of blue that I use in Illustrator. That's what it looks like to me. And then the red is, the red is red. So they're going for a really super stark contrast. Like you said, like the computer printing capabilities nowadays is probably much higher quality. So they're able to do this. And there's something I read up above on the website. You don't have to scroll, but it said something like Pepsi Pulse. So Pepsi kind of finding their pulse, right? Exactly. So that's what that background to me feels like. It feels like a pulsing kind of
Right.
outwards, right? It really feels like a music concert. So there's a level of excitement and enthusiasm with the brand. I think it relates Pepsi to sort of a style of entertainment. And just because it's appeared as a sponsor in every kind of programming. So I'm seeing that electricity, I think, in the Pepsi that we see now that we didn't have in the past, which is a very different direction for the brand.
Makes sense. That makes sense. In terms of art direction as well, if you'll think, so we were at this phase. Before this existed,
Yeah.
we were at this phase, right? I think what you can refer to is always in the past. And so they go to exactly what was there in the past, this one. And this just says those things that were completely missing in this one. They are just completely
Yeah.
mellowed down. Here, as you'll see, the logo is just something bursting out of the logo, crystals, big graphics, the properly, on your face typeface.
Correct.
So they used these things, tied it with these things to the heritage, and comes up with this. The only one thing is this Pepsi, this one, the slant makes it feels like it's a one or something maybe. Even with this,
Sure.
the Peps one.
Yeah.
And
I
I
hear
still
you.
prefer this one over this. Like the lowercase
Yeah.
thing just didn't work for me. But I love this
Yeah.
logo mark. There's something so cool about this. Like if it was just such a genuine fun thing from a brand.
It's funny. Between that whole period, I'm surprised they didn't turn it into a dynamic logo, because you could easily like mirror that swish, and then it turns into a kind of a different looking logo. But it's always that one feature of the red on top and the blue in the middle, on the bottom. So I'm surprised they didn't use a dynamic version of it. So that's, I think, one missed opportunity in those 14 years, I'll say.
Maybe it's not actually their DNA. That's also possible that they tried to do it for these 14 years. They were just themselves probably not internalizing that
Yeah.
type of feeling.
Yeah.
Chillness, or maybe because as you said,
Yeah.
this direction works, this pulsating direction.
Yeah. So if we look at Coca-Cola versus Pepsi, which is like the oldest rivalry in the book of brands, right? It's basically red versus blue, but even Pepsi couldn't shy away from using red. But Coca-Cola represents happiness, right? They kind of own happiness. Here, during Christmas time, they literally have Santa Claus on the Coca-Cola cans. And if you didn't know this, Brad, here's a fun fact. Santa Claus was originally, he had a green outfit.
Yes, I heard of it.
And culturally, because of Coca-Cola and them using it in the yearly Christmas branding, they changed it to red. And now red has become the outfit of Santa Claus. So imagine the level of cultural impact of that. Now, Coca-Cola represents happiness. What does Pepsi represent? What would you say Pepsi represents? Do you have a word in mind? Yeah.
For me, from the Indian context, what does Pepsi represent? Sports? No, not sports. I don't know, to be honest. College?
It's hard.
One word that comes to mind is college, probably. We have some emotions
Sure.
about it, around that.
Yeah.
Teenage,
Yeah.
college, youth.
Yeah. There's not one answer. If you were to ask me, I would have a hard time saying. I think you said a word called chill. So I like that word. Maybe chill is what I associate Pepsi with. But I don't have a word for Pepsi. That's the biggest issue. That's where I think Pepsi has always kind of lost the battle. And so this is them, I guess, finding that a little better, right? And I think they're on that pathway. I just don't know what that word is yet. Maybe they'll let me know, as they kind of go on with this.
Yeah. In terms of association as well, I think it says your battery is less than 20%. Is that true?
Oh, that must be me. That's okay. I'll plug in.
Yeah. But how does it know that?
I don't know.
It sends me a notification, Gurjinder's battery is less than 20%.
Thankfully, it sent you that notification before I forgot.
Riverside
Okay.
can't figure out audio, but it can spy for sure.
Yep.
Moving on. Yeah, in terms of, if I'll have to give an Indian context, and so I was about to say when I was in college, I am in college right now, and if I'll have to tell you about brand associations, it's majorly Coca-Cola for us, and maybe
Right.
some Monster here and there, Red Bull, blah 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 on the side. But
Yeah.
in terms of the broad twos, Pepsi is there, but more than Pepsi, I think Thumbs Up is more pronounced here,
Yes.
especially in the tier 2, tier 3s. And it represents more towards the Mountain Dew direction, the energy, the sports, high adrenaline direction.
Yeah.
And Pepsi, I think if you have to look back 5-10 years from the Indian context, it represents that. That can be the only word that comes to mind, which is chill, youthful, college. It's that vibe. It was the predominant positioning for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think they're capturing a little bit of that with the type of colors that they're using. So it's a good step in the good direction.
This pulsating thing again.
Yeah,
This image, the paint cans.
that's
I'll be
right.
honest, in terms of Coca-Cola, I don't think we have a word to explain Coca-Cola in our context.
Yeah.
It's a
Okay.
bit fresh in a way. Because here
Sure.
it doesn't represent happiness. It represents
Okay.
calories, but apart from that,
Of course.
I'm not sure.
I hear you.
Fun merchandise. Yeah, I mean when Pepsi has been able to convert themselves to this new, in a way, edgy brand, then of course their merchandise will look much more wearable than a Coca-Cola, I guess.
Correct.
With this T-shirt specifically, it looks good. Looks good is the point.
Yeah, absolutely. No, the visuals matter here. They have to catch your eye from far away. And I like that they have kind of the cans being different colors. So blue is like the regular can, and it's the regular drink, and then you have those different ones. But look at the logo of Pepsi. It's huge on the can. It like covers like the entire visual. You could say the viewport of the can, right? It covers that whole first surface area that you see. A little bit like Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola likes to have their script font kind of taking over the whole can. So that's something that we're seeing.
Timely and timeless. The new Pepsi logo visual identity system are more than a refresh. Of course, it's more than a refresh. It's completely different.
That's right.
Reflects the brand's confidence. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. The
That's
international
good.
confidence, the confidence in brand. Yeah. That's
Correct.
great. Different languages.
Very cool.
This is just, whenever brands do this, as in it's something to marvel at or something, I'm like, no, you have to do this. This is
Yeah.
something that it's not
Yeah.
that you won't, it's not that you did it, you have to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you're a global brand at the kind of the scale of Pepsi or Coca-Cola or anything like that, yes, these have to be done. But also the way that they execute them, I think, is done really well. They're using kind of the sharper corners, as you can see in all of these, in this Arabic font, and then in the next font as well. So they have those slantedness. So I think, they kind of use the same typography artist to create these different versions, which is very respectful.
The wordmark and globe blend together to take over every touch point, from packaging
That's
to
right.
equipment to fashion.
That's right.
I think they'll explore the merchandising direction more as well. They should.
Yeah.
Maybe
Oh, look at
sponsorships
that.
as well. That looks good.
This could be a popular flavor in India.
Yeah. If they make it
We
well.
love. That's right. We love our mangoes.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's bigger and bolder in every way. Sure.
Yeah.
Explains we design our brands to tell a compelling and holistic story. Pepsi, a shining example of a brand consistently re-innovated itself, reinvented. Yeah, part of the pop culture over 125 years. And that in itself is amazing. We see more of the same things. As I had mentioned, we had mentioned it quite some time ago as well. This is the favorite mock to use for every designer, I guess.
Yes. The walking past the kind of the billboard, whether it's a wooden fence or it's a concrete block, it's always there.
Interesting.
Okay.
Nice. We're finished.
Very cool.
This one.
Good job, Pepsi. Good job.
Good job. All the best to Pepsi. All the best to Coca-Cola as well. Let's see what's the next rivalry like. And we'll see you in the next one.